Hello there. Okay, well, it was always my intention to do 3 little baby hedgehogs with the big hedgehog. So I'm literally just going to draw a pattern out. I know. So yeah, basic shape of a hedgehog, and then I'm going to do a base like that. Now obviously the 3 baby hedgehogs are going to be sewn in fur. This is the long hair, and this is short hair, and this is short hair. So yes, I know, such a simple shape, and I may, time willing, I know, do one patchwork sort of, just as a pincushion, but honestly it's going to be a 5-second add-on at the end. Okay, so yeah, I don't really need to switch camera off. It's not going to take me very long to cut this out. So what I've done here is, rather than draw the pattern, I've drawn the picture, and when I do cut it out, then I'm going to add my seam allowance. So it's just an easier way. And okay, I'm quite lucky that I can pick up a simple shape from memory, but if we wanted to be a bit more correct, then I could get a picture on the internet and then do it that way. So they're my simple shapes. I'm going to pick my grain of my long fur. That's quite important because we want it whooshing down the back, don't we? And I'm going to make sure that I've got one of each side, and I can fold my fabric so that I can do, so if I draw around an extra centimetre of this, then I can do that. And because I'm making the 3, I know I've got enough fabric along this line just to do the rest. So now I might be holding this together. I don't need to swoosh the grain out of the front because that's okay, but when I cut the back, obviously I'm going to swoosh the grain a bit. So if I go to the back there, and rather than cut everything, all I'm going to do is, with the sharp bit of my scissors, is just put it under the fabric and not on the fluff. So, and it does take a while to get used to this. This is where little nail scissors are very good, and then I can peel it away. So let's just show what I mean. So I'm pulling it away, and then I've still got my fluff, whereas when I cut the front I didn't do that, so I can just put that there. Pull that off, and then that's in the bin. So obviously I need to do that on both sides, so I can just swing him round, and then I can do the same again. Or her. Has yet to be determined. Okay, so that's that done. I can put that to the side. And then I'm just going to take my bottom. I don't need to worry about the grain so much on this. This is described as poodle fur, although I would call it sheep's wool, but I know. I can do, can't I? I can call it whatever I like, really. And then I need 2 of the bases, and the S is for short fur rather than bases. So just traced that, and then moved it, and then traced it, and then I can just do my ends there. So, and same again. I need 2 of his little head. Now, there's a lot to be said for sewing bigger things. Sewing small things are more fiddly, so it's more difficult, and sewing big things is less fiddly. And you will find this, that with especially soft toys, the smaller you get, the fiddlier it gets. So I only need 1 of the bases. I don't know why I did it twice. It's not going to waste, obviously, because of there's going to be 3 little chaps, and I'm going to put my pattern somewhere safe as well, so that I've got that ready to do the cloth one and do a giant pincushion. So that's everything. I've got everything I need. Sewing machine's all set up. Now there's a lot to be said for choosing where you want to start. I think I'm going to sew the head on first, because this is going to be the trickiest bit of the sew. And I've taken the sleeve arm off. This is so that I've got as much visibility as possible. And quite important to sew right up to the corners, because it's just work. Now, and quite important to make sure that you've actually sewing, because, you know, these things always help. You're in screen, not shot, aren't you? Good, good, good. Now, you will notice that if you sew fur that you get a lot of fluff floating around. I think if you were doing a lot, then make sure you've got a ventilated room. And there's no reason why you can't wear a mask. There really isn't. It just depends on you. I know some people, even if they saw the fluff on telly, they would be a bit breezy and difficult to breathe. So, let's get this going. And then a simple matter of pulling it round rather than letting it stretch round. That's the point I'm trying to make, because it is very stretchy. Okay, well, I'm going to just sort my little patchwork one out so I can get that sewn at the same time and get my machine sewing. Hello there. Okay. So the nice thing about making a little patchwork thingy is, okay, I did just go through the bin for these scraps. You know, no, it sounds terrible. I have a separate bin where I put scraps. In fact, I have quite a complicated filing system, really. I have big bits, little bits, tiny bits, and you'll see me when I'm threading up the machine, getting like little scraps just to put, get the machine started and everything. So anyway, a tote boy's dress I made, the shorts that I made loads of, Maleficent cloak, a swing coat, and I'm not 100% sure. Okay, so yeah, it's all good. And whilst we're waffling away here, okay. The needle fell out of the machine, I don't know why. Rethreaded the machine, put the needle back in. Then the bobbin decided that it was going to completely clank up and everything else like that. And yeah, all sorts of things. Determined not to sew. But look, it was determined not to sew with me doing it wrong. I know, it's so nice when your machine looks after you like that. So let's get it round the right way. So we've got the drawing of a hedgehog shape. And we're just going to fold it over, and then I'm going to sew the bits together, and then I'm going to sew it together. I quite like that sort of canon. And it's really up to you whether you go for larger hem allowances or you do the pushy-pulley thing. And you will see, literally, I will fight every step of the way to get this done. But well worth it, I think. So literally sometimes I'm only doing 3 stitches before I turn it round and wiggle it again. So again, got the hedgehog shape, and then we're folding it over. And always sew the smaller bits to the bigger bits. It just makes life a bit easier. If you're going to have something like a straight line and a circle, if you put the straight line down and then wiggle the circle. So I know there's not much for you to see. All I'm doing is I'm curbing round the head, but because the fabric's so stretchy, I'm making sure that I don't just stretch the fabric round. What I want to do is curve the fabric round. So that's my 2 heads on my body, and I'll just trim that. And then I'm going to lay them flat. Again, just checking that it looks like a hedgehog. and now I need to sew the seam along the top of the little boy hedgehog. So yeah, there's not enough there for it to really grab the foot, but I do need to sew right down to the edges on this. I think if you just had too much, then it would be too bulky, and I think it would lose shape. So here we go, I'm just going over the hem. Now that's quite a thick bit of fabric. It's quite easy to sew, and I know the needle will go through, but what you don't want is so much that it pushes your foot up, because if you push your actual foot up, and it can happen, then what happens is it disengages the bobbin, and you can get in a bit of a pickle really. So what I'm doing now is I'm just starting my curb, but with my thumb I'm just pushing all this fur under there. So, and it will be, I'll do an inch and push again, and I'll do an inch and push again. So, because as much as we can get in there, otherwise we're going to have to just sit there and pull it out with probably a tapestry needle. So I'm just coming to the bottom now, and I do a couple of reverse stitches. So even with all that effort, I've still got a little clump that I'm going to need to pull through, and it just literally is a matter of running a needle through and pulling this fur out. Okay, now I'm going to have to leave a hole to turn it inside out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sewing at the end of the head and then sew round and stop just after the seam. And rather than doing my turning point around on a seam, I'm going to make sure that I leave the biggest bit available and the strongest bit available. Because if you're doing something quite small, obviously you haven't got any big points to do the turning round. So right on the corner, so I'm going to have to give it a little tug just to get it to start sewing again. I'm just coming up to the seam of the head and the body on the underside, because this is the base. And again, I'm just pushing my fluff in to make sure I am sewing really. And that's another thing that can happen when you're sewing fur, is you can literally just be sewing through fluff, so it's terrible really. Okay, so I'm going to convince it that it wants to sew, and I'm just going to make sure I've started over this seam, because I don't want to finish on a seam point. So there we are, we've got our points nice and neat, and it's a matter of turning it inside out. Now toy stuffing, got to be certified really if you're going to give it to a child or you're going to give it to a present. And you can buy it where you can buy fur really. Yeah, I actually, if it's not for a child, or if it's just for myself or a grown-up friend, then I know that I will literally use pillow fluff. So okay, so yes, here we are. You can see even with all my effort, I've still got to pull out quite a lot of fluff from his little seam at the back, and the more I can get out, the better he will look. Okay, so where are we? He needs stuffing, and I have got little buttons for his eyes. The reason behind that is that I thought that it wouldn't be nice to give him big eyes. Okay, baby animals do have big eyes, but I just thought it was a bit of a bad idea. So I've got some little buttons to sew on there, and I just need to stuff him. So Yeah, somebody's been in my room. I know, life is hard. So all I'm doing here is I'm stuffing him with quilting wadding, which we know is fine. So I can just trim a bit off there and I can give him a good stuff. Now, like I said, I did do a patchwork one as well, so I'll stuff that one as well. And it's entirely up to you whether you sew on the eyes now. There's a lot to be said for that if you're going to use buttons. If you're going to use safety eyes, then you have to do them now. It's just life. Now when you come to the seam, obviously again I'm going to push out as much fur as I can. And there is sort of a natural point where you can just pinch it. And then I'm going to sew along there. So again, watch the foot doesn't spring up, because you know, it's one of those things you sit there and you go, why isn't my machine working? And yes, okay, so it's making a lot of noise because I am going through quite a lot of fabric and it is doing the jumpy thing again. Funny old machine. Yes, to do it once was funny. To do it twice is a bit naughty, isn't it? Ooh. There we go. One more stitch, I think, and then we're fine. Okay, that's pretty much given up the ghost. So yes, as neatly as possible, and then again, make sure his fluff goes all the way out. So now, I must confess to you that when I've made a wedding slot, which is quite rare, it's only very close friends that I would even consider it, I have made little lavender bags out of everybody's fabric, and I've made them as stuffed toys, and it's just something. You know, make sure you dry the lavender out properly. Mine's not quite in flower yet, so I don't have one to show you, but yeah, you know, that's quite a nice little thing to do, and it simpler the better, really. You know, everyone would just be amazed that you've been so thoughtful. Now, if you were going to make pincushion, we have to stuff him fully. He really does need to be completely firm, and then he'll work better as a pincushion. And yeah, it's one of those things, you know, you have, if you're sewing, you'll use your pincushion daily. So I know, completely stuffed. You can use leftover fur bits, that's not a problem, or leftover anything really. And then again, I would just put the sewing machine round there and then hand sew on 2 little eyes. Okay, so I've got my sewing to do. Pretty much thank you ever so much for watching. What I'll do is I'll put the little face thumbnail print of the finished monsters. So yes, I know, cute as. Alright, thank you for watching. My name's Fiona from Weekly Sewing Bee. Okay, I'm relenting. I know. But they're cute, aren't they? So yes. I know. I'm not very good at hand sewing. I'm not very good at knitting either. Oh well. Yeah, that's that. I hide the needle and then I can take the picture. Alright, thank you ever so much for watching.